Hey, Anton.
Hey, there are two of us.
Yeah,
Yet, I
exactly.
think.
Yeah, so I don't know if we're gonna get. Oh, so yeah, some people are coming. I'm not sure how many we're gonna get. Hopefully, a few more. I definitely want to learn a little bit about the test framework anyway. Um, Either way. Hi, Jan.
Hi, James. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
Quite well. Just we have an emergency in Prague. Tubes getting water into our houses. They were broken, so around 100,000 of people were without water for 3 days, including my family. And it's quite interesting experience to be 3 days without water. That's really interesting.
Yeah, we've had similar things. I mean, it's not surprising, so surprising it's happened here in Africa, but more surprising, I guess it's 3 days long in Europe. But 3 days is a long time for water because, like a few hours is fine, or 12 hours or whatever, you can store some water, but 3 days you're going to have to go fetch water from trucks or something. Yeah, it's going to get tough.
Exactly. Luckily, at least we have showers in our offices, so that's good. But otherwise, you can't do anything at home.
Yeah. Okay. And is it fixed yet?
Yeah. It has been fixed yesterday. So good. So far, so good.
Okay.
Hopefully, next time it won't happen in next 10 years.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. We have like quite erratic power supply in the whole country here, South Africa, because the national energy utility, Eskom, which produces most of our electricity from coal, has been just captured and mismanaged, so the combination of corruption and mismanagement to the point where it cannot produce enough power. It can, like, let's say most of the time, but it's right on the edge, and all it takes is for one or two extra of our 50-year-old kind of coal plants to break down, and then they go into what's called load shedding. So they just start switching us off on this regular schedule for hour blocks. It's just a fact of life now. Yeah, it's quite crazy. One of the funniest things to come out of it, well, I don't know if you call it funny or just depressing, but because they're so crippled by debt, this parastatal, this state-owned energy utility, and they know that people are turning to solar panels and their own solutions, they're trying to get legislation passed that if you have solar panels and you're generating your own energy, not only can you not feed it back into the grid or anything or sell it to Eskom, but in fact you must pay Eskom for the fact that they were there as your standby. They were like a backup service. They had to run too. So even though you didn't consume anything from them because you went off the grid, you still owe them money, which is just like crazy to me. I mean, that's when it starts feeling like something's broken,
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so maybe we'll get a couple more people that trickle in. I may have to pause every now and again. Sorry, and excuse my scratchy throat. I actually thought I had COVID last night. I went for a rapid test this morning, came back negative, so it fooled me again. It's obviously something, it seems like I've caught every cold and flu bug you can get, except the one that's causing the global pandemic, which is miraculous to me. I don't really believe it even, but anyway, there it is. Okay, so we know we've got, maybe what we can do is go straight to our drill test framework intro that Anton's going to do for us. And I guess everybody saw in the mailing list that this is, I'm sure he'll give us more background, but it's something that was developed at MapR, and it's not, I understand it's not really the same as unit tests, which exercise like a small isolated piece of the code base. It's a lot of tests that run against a fully, stood up environment. So it's not just a little test harness or something, it's a full drill cluster with real storage attached or real external systems. And so you can reveal bugs that you can't with unit tests. And I think just the sheer number of them as well, I think something like 10,000 tests, one of which actually saved us from shipping a regression in 120. So I'm already a fan. So this has been handed over to us. It was always Apache licensed, and we've got Anton and Abhishek as contacts at HP, and they kind of just made it happen. So I guess it's for us now to benefit from it on the one hand, and also to look after it and make sure that it is everything it can be. So learn how to maintain it, how to extend it, and then even see if there's a really cost-efficient way with all the clever elastic compute stuff that you can get now to be able to run it regularly, on some or other basis. Even if all that is before a release, that would still be something. But if we could elastically create the resources, run the test framework, and I think it wants quite a few resources to kind of work well, and then shut them all down, it should still be pretty cheap. So hopefully something like that will come out of it. Yeah, so Anton, let me hand it over to you, and you can tell us all about it.
Sorry, I don't have any presentation, but I will just share my screen. Try to share my screen, I think. Okay, can you see it?
Yeah.
Some time ago, Abhishek moved drill test framework from MapR domain to the Apache. So now it is a Apache project officially, and this is great, I think. Here we have Redmi MD that has, I think, good description of what it is. Quick explanation what it was and what is it doing. So as James mentioned, yes, this is a functional test framework. So it uses DrillJDBC driver to send queries and check for results. So it requires a drill to be run to be running somewhere. Previously, it was installed on the same cluster as drill and HDFS. And yeah, here in requirements, you may see something like this paragraph about it. Actually, I did some changes, but in my local branch for now, to make it work inside a Docker container. And actually, I was able to run it even on Windows without any cluster to be installed. Here, what I have, as you can see, I just started Drill embedded in embedded mode. I just run it, something like this. So I clone the repository and build it, and now I just started it with Drill embedded bot. Also, as a HDFS, I'm using S3 from Minio. Here just started the server, and in the console, I had one simple bucket with public access and one user to run it, run all those tests. So let me give some demonstrations. For example, I start simple test run of one test suite inside a Docker container. So as you can see, yeah, tests are already running. There are not so much tests, I think. Yeah, and it's all completed. So do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the containers and the way you've split everything up. So does the test framework work in that there's by starting or assuming that a drill cluster has been started up, and that's maybe corresponds to one Docker container, and then the code to run the tests themselves runs in a separate process, I guess. Is that like a separate container, or how is it packaged?
So Drill test framework is not being packaged inside a container. Container only has some Linux and Maven and Java. So here I have, first I use Docker Maven plugin for this purpose. And yeah, I have an option Docker base image. Now I use such image from this Docker Hub. In future, I can do some more setup of this image, but for now, I think it is suitable.
Okay, so inside this, the container launched from this image, it comes with Java and Maven, and then do you copy in the test framework code itself and compile it as part of the image? You're building your own image? Or?
Actually, here's a command for building the framework. So as you can see, I use the same phrases, but actually with this Maven goal. Yeah, it works. I'm not copying all this data to container. Instead of this, I use bind volumes. So just
Okay, you bind volumes.
So yeah, it
and
binds 3 volumes, Maven and Drill and this framework. So yeah, I forgot to mention that you do need Drill to be built aside with Drill test framework, because it needs fresh JDBC driver that for testing. So
okay, and then so just
show
one
you.
more.
So
oh, sorry.
I have for example, have test automation folder, and inside of it I have Drill test framework on the same level. So I assume that they are on the same level, but you can change a folder in a POM file in POM file properties here, somewhere here. And also you need to set Drill version. So I can just show you. So how to install it. It's quite simple, and will end fast. I also changed some config files to make it work from just out of the box, because before that you used to need playing with config files and try several times, etc. So everything is completed, and yeah, I can repeat. Well, okay, so from what is happening in this command, I'm using Docker plugin, Maven plugin, and pass arguments to it. Actually, before that, we used to run something like run tests with this arguments, but I cannot run tests on Windows. It won't run actually. So you need Linux for this command. And here we have -s test suite. I can explain it in details later. Here's just a folder in which he's looking. And -g functional, it's this category of tests. -x exclude, it excludes S3 Minio because actually we have tests with S3, and if these tests are included, it starts Minio server itself, and I don't want to start it right now. -n is number of threads. I ran it with 5 threads, but you can set it a custom number. And we used to have 50 threads, and I think around 10,000 tests were executed within 10 minutes, I think. And -d means generating this data. So let me execute it another time.
Okay, I just want to quickly, so now inside the Docker container is both Drill itself being started and the test test framework?
No, actually, I started Drill beside, so in other tab, as you can see, it just
okay,
it doesn't
now
like
I'm with
something,
you.
yeah. And I started a minion server here in parallel. Yeah.
Okay, and these things don't even have to be in containers. They could be on the host system, so long as the networking allows the test framework container to talk to Drill, it's fine.
Yeah, actually, you don't have to run the test framework inside a container. I thought that it should be a good idea because you can easily change the operating system, the version of Java and Maven, etc. But it appears that not you don't have much that is happening inside that container. You can, if you have a Linux system, you can run it directly the same way. So let me just show you something. So in execution started with some exceptions. I think this is something with config. I'm not sure. Then it then it updates uploading storage plugins. So it has some templates for the storage plugins, and it uploads it via the REST. Then it sets some system options, and yeah, one option just need to set the correct value for it, and it is needed for some tests, I think, but for the most cases it will be fine even with this exception. Then this is data preparation stages, and we used to have only copying data, generating data, and that's all. This is my local branch. I added some other stages because, for example, executing DDL scripts. Before that, we just use SH scripts or bar scripts that in which we called SQL line with with DDL scripts passed into it. Now it uses JDBC driver as well. So I think that's it, and some statistics after the test run. So I want to show you actual code after this. So I changed some files, some configs during this run. So first, there is a core site XML, and as I use Minayo, I set the core site XML to point to my Minayo server, but it used to point on some HDFS, for example, or MapRFS or some other distribution. Also, I changed it to the FS storage plugin to point to S3. I think it's not correct, but well, it is the simplest way. And also we have Drill test config properties when I needed to set connection string and some other, I think, Drill bits, IPs, and Drill storage plugin server IP. This is alias for localhost. when you access it from the Docker container. It works only in Windows, I think. In Linux, when I run it, I just use network host mode, and and I even did not need to change anything in these properties. It has default values.
Okay, it'd be nice to leave a comment there or something explaining that this trick will help for Windows.
Actually, the tricks is needed only because I ran drill on the same machine as the Docker container, and it need to access localhost.
Yeah,
but
okay.
Assuming that you run drill on a separate node on a separate machine, then you don't have to. You just set the IP or yeah. Okay. I think we have this explained here. I'm not sure. Yeah, we have contributed MD actually, but nevertheless, JTest config properties example is what you have, and it has commented strings, and some of them you will need to run JTest framework. For example, addresses of your bits. Okay, and also, as I mentioned before, in POM XML, there need to be drill version actual, and also I changed the M2 home, because in Linux I have something like env home, and in Windows we don't have this environment variable, so I just hard-coded it there. Also, it seems that Maven download Maven plugin is not working in Windows, but I think it's minor. So I think it says all for all configurations that I have. Not so much, I think. Yeah. So about the structure. Here, main directory is framework. It has source when all framework code is present, and also I think we have some unit tests for. I'm not sure actually. They were added relatively recently, and I'm not sure. I think that was related to resource management, but I'm not sure. Here is the classes for framework code itself, and the tests are placed inside the resources folder. Here we have some scripts, and we have two folders for tests themselves, functional and advanced. The functional, we have folders, and this. Let me, for example, the first for the folder that I executed in my test run. It use JSON file and assume them as test suite description. So it has some description here, like categories, test ID, group. some other information.
Oh.
And when we run tests, we use S option to mark suite for execution. It run tests recursively. It searched for test suites recursively. So I only mention folder, and it searched for every JSON file inside this folder. Here's only one, actually. And executed. Also, we have the tests. For example, let me open some tests. So this is basically just a query, and the other extension is test result, query result, and it just compare from the actual result. And if everything is all right, it marked test as passed. We also have, maybe not there. We also have tests for plants. For example, you can, yes, here's a plain JSON and data JSON.
So it runs explain and generated execution plan is compared to this fixture, right?
Yeah, exactly. For example, here it calls explain plan. Basically, this is being run the same way as query, but it uses regex for verifying it. This is some primitive test plan, actually. I think we have more. We can run, we can have something like this with more complicated regex, but nothing too complicated, I think. So yeah, so basically that's it. Do you have some questions so far?
Definitely. That's very interesting framework. Because we have implemented also similar frameworks, but for multiple data sources. So we challenging to different issues than you. But in your case, my question here is how easy it is to configure new target setup. For example, drill with some. Oh.
Hi, sorry, I think Charles is one of the hosts, and Zoom decided that if he leaves, then nobody should be allowed to stay.
Well, we can friendly blame him because when you leave, when you are leaving Zoom, you can assign another host, someone else who is host, and he most likely he forgot to do it, so he interrupted the whole session.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to send him a message. Sorry, Anton.
Yeah, so what was the question? I didn't hear the
yeah,
last part.
So basically Basically, I saw in configurations, I saw configurations of various data sources. So I suppose that I can configure drill with different underlying storages, not only with MinIO, but I could configure it, for example, with Postgres. Would it be possible? How complicated it would be?
Yeah, it would definitely be possible. Let me continue to share screen. Here we have plugin templates. It means that every one that we have here is actually used for in some cases, some test cases. So here we have CP, DFS, HBase. I think we have Hive somewhere. Not sure. Yeah, here's secure and unsecure. We have Hive both secure and unsecure. And yeah.
And where are the underlying data?
Yeah, data is. So I showed you where the tests are, and here we have data sources where all this data is placed. So let me, for example.
So I suppose that the data are very small. Am I correct?
Not in every case. So let me show you. For example, in each test suite definition file, we have data sources section, and it contains definitions for every data set. We have this most well, we have mode. That means different modes of data sources generating or preparation. So here is just CP. That means that it took two data sources from this folder and placed it into the storage, which is configured. In my case, this is S3 storage. MinIO is MinIO storage, and in more general case, it is some HDFS. And yeah, I think.
So, and Anton, there's an S3 bucket with kind of a whole lot of original data sets that get copied.
Yes.
Where the data sets get copied from, which is like a public S3 bucket or something, I think.
Yeah, sorry, let me just complete what I'm trying to say.
Oh,
so
sorry.
We have different modes of data preparation. So CP is just direct copy that data that is that you can see here is just directly copied to the HDFS or some storage. This gen means it executes scripts with some parameters, like it just executes this string inside SRC. And also I have something like, let me see. Not here. Yeah, for example, we can it can be something like this. So not only CP, some some resources are being deleted and making some directories, executing DDL scripts, etc. So I tried, we used to have only CP and Gen that called the script. And now I try to add some more options. So returning to the original question. So we have some data sets stored in data sources. Some of the data sets are being generated by scripts, or for example, if we need to create some views or tables based on this data, you use DDL scripts. And some of the data sets are quite large. So for now, we use some of these data sets are being downloaded from the S3 from the public S3 buckets, but I think this is not acceptable. So we will we're thinking about some other ways to store it. For example, I think that there is some options with GitHub, but I'm not sure yet.
So on our side, we do it similarly. We store testing data in public AWS S3 bucket, but regularly we also build a Docker image containing these testing data, and this Docker image also contains the testing tooling, and we somehow verify if these data are changed. So we build the Docker image again, the newer version. And Docker image is stored in our local registry, so you don't need to download the testing data from AWS S3 every time, but only if data is changed. So that's our approach.
I see.
Does that Docker image of yours get really big, or is your test data not huge?
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously, there is an exception, and this exception is TPCH benchmark. And in this case, we use their generator and generate the data, and we don't store them on AWS S3. And generation of the data must happen locally. But this is something we will use for performance testing, and I think that's different area, different topic. Yeah, because all these tests I consider to be functional tests, not performance tests. Am I correct, Anton?
Yes. Mostly it is it is functional tests. For performance testing, I think we used to have different tool, but yeah, nevertheless we has data sets generated from TPCH and TPCDS, and it can be quite large.
Yeah, for TPCH, we created our own tooling, which can run this in a distributed way on multiple nodes, and on each node, part of TPC data is generated. So we can generate, for example, terabytes of data in few minutes in a distributed way. Otherwise, it would be too slow and useless.
Yeah, I see. But I think we just generated it once and stored it somewhere.
Yeah, that's also possible in some local MinIO, for example.
And yeah, we had some data sets that, for example, 100 gigabytes. It's the most that we have, I think.
Okay, so it seems that I could contribute here, and I could add new testing scenarios which we test on our side. I could contribute it into this repository.
That would be great.
Currently, we are testing it against drill running on top of Postgres, but we very quickly realized that this is not sufficient because obviously drill behaves differently when running on top of Postgres compared to when it's running, for example, on top of MinIO, because many things can be pushed down into Postgres, but not in MinIO. And some queries start failing when you run it on top of MinIO. So I could add these, and also some of these queries are failing because some bugs in drill or because missing functionality. So this could be a way.
That's great.
This could be a way how we could exchange. How I could hand over reproducers to you in form of these tests, which could be disabled in your pipeline, but you could explore it and use it as a reproducer.
Yeah, that would be really great. I think we actually mentioned that in one of the first calls where you offered, some of these tests that reveal issues, queries that don't run when the backing storage is not like an external database, but it's file storage, and there are probably just drill bugs, or as you say, missing features. I'd be very grateful to have that.
Unfortunately, there are also tests which basically are running forever, even on top of not that large data. Largest data set contains hundreds of thousands of rows. It's few megabytes, but still the test is running forever. The question is, what would happen on your side if you execute it?
Can we mark a test as excluded from the suite or disabled or anything like that, Anton?
We have different categories, like functional, or I think it is actually groups. So we execute, for example, only group functional. Here is a category, and some tests have dependencies on, for example, a high fetch base, etc. That it will need such tools to run. You can just add it to the other category, for example, some advanced or something like this.
For example,
or slow.
Slow. For example, in advanced test suites we have category advanced. And it will not run when we just execute group functional.
Cool. So I will create a new group called failing or something like that. I will add the test cases, and you can play with that.
That'll be great. And I guess you'll have to either put in code to generate the data that they depend on. Or,
yeah. Actually, the data I'm talking about, they are stored in AWS S3 public bucket. So I could add it into the configuration which Anton just showed us. That's one way. Another way is that I will just send you the S3 URL, and you can head it over and store it whenever you want. They are basically CSV files, all these. There are multiple data sets, I mean, multiple schemas, multiple Snowflake schemas. I think there are 3 of them. And on top of them, there are around 800 tests. They are focused on analytical use cases. And yeah, so I would start with the problematic ones, and then I can ship the rest.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think that's a great idea, and we could put them in some new category, like you say, failing or something like this. And then as we fix them, we can move them into the appropriate category. Maybe this one of these existing categories applies.
Yeah. That's exactly what we are doing on our side with our tooling as well.
Actually, there are some cases that run forever. This is something to do with memory configuration or some system options. Just need to be. I spotted such tests when I'm now debugging the tests and change it. I'm changing the JSON files from the old way to new way. And while executing, I spotted some tests that are just hanging.
Well,
yeah, I mean, once it. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So when you start default drill on localhost with default setup, when I do it, the same is happening on my side. Obviously, the question is what target drill setup you want to use in your pipeline, James.
What budget of drill setup? So you're saying what sort of resources are going to be on the drill cluster that we run the test framework against?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I can imagine if it's like running locally and there's not a lot of memory and some of the operators start spilling to disk, and maybe you don't have a very fast disk even, that could make things grind to a halt pretty badly. So yeah, I wanted to actually ask Anton. I've literally got like 3 minutes odd before I also have to go to the next call. But if we took this test framework and I thought I had misunderstood actually. I thought that it kind of had to spin up a specially configured drill cluster to work. But if because we've got existing dev, test, and production environments, drill clusters that are just running all the time. So on the weekend when nobody's using dev or test, could we point this at one of those? And would the initial scripts do a lot of the data generation for test data if we just pointed it at one of our existing drill clusters that's not been configured at all?
I'm not sure, but actually it will change the storage plugin configs, and
okay, so it will have an effect.
It doesn't back it up, and also it will affect the storage
by writing data into
Yeah.
whatever the storage is configured there. Okay, but we may be able to manage all of this stuff, because it's definitely possible to take a snapshot of the storage configs quickly before we launch the test framework, and then launch it, let it trash or mess around in the storage configs.
Actually, you can back up it manually or by some scripts, and then you can just have another storage on which you will set up test runs. And
yeah, exactly. This is what I'm thinking.
That just switch one with another. Yeah, I think this will be okay. This can be okay. Actually, there are room for this. There is room for this discussions and changes. I just
cool.
I just showed you that there are some pretty minimal requirements for this basic test runs, but when we run all these tests at the same time with parallelism, like this 50 threads, I think we will need more powerful machines that I have.
Right, but you said at Mappa they were able to get through this entire test framework in under an hour. So obviously, if you have enough muscle, these tests can complete.
So actually, it will load not only consume resources itself, but the drill that is actually executes all these queries against the data storage. The drill itself consumes much more resources, I think. So because of that, we had all these powerful clusters for test runs.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to try on the dev environment or something, and maybe you and I can try point some of these test suites at our dev cluster and see. We'll discuss like snapshotting the config, but that's also small. It's not. I'm sure probably Mappa would have had like 10 nodes or more with 50 gigs of RAM on each, or 100 gigs or something. Something serious.
Here I have Ryzen 5 and 32 gigabytes of RAM. Just for the reference.
Okay, yeah, and we know that a bunch of them run there. Okay, I want to say thank you. I got now at 6 p.m. It's 6 p.m. where I am. Call that I must connect to, but this has been really awesome, and so thank you for taking the time to introduce us to this.
So only 3 of us left.
Yeah, exactly, but we've got the recording. I think some of the guys in Beijing will be interested. It's like the middle of the night for them, so hopefully some of them get the recording, and I'm gonna be able to point other people I work with to the recording, so it's super valuable. Yeah, and then when Charles killed the meeting, he actually killed Paul, and I don't know if there was anyone else, but it's really bad of him.
I think Volodymyr was there also.
Yeah, I saw him.
Oh yeah, Volodymyr was, yeah, exactly. Okay, well, I may kill it again now if I leave, so I apologize in advance if anyone wants to stay, but I'm going to say thanks and drop now.
Yes,
thanks for coming through, guys.
Take care and have a nice weekend.
You too. Same to you both. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.